Welcome to Scrabble Tonight. I'm Josh Greenway. Thank you very much for joining. We're going to be talking about what else? Scrabble. I have two fantastic guests here tonight. We have Jason Keller and Art Moore to talk about all things Scrabble. And the first thing that I want to do tonight is introduce my co-host for the evening. None other, the one, the only, Jason Keller. Jason, how are you, man?
Hey, well, you know what? I'm like running around like crazy, but managing.
That's good. I wanted to, what I thought might make some sense here is I wanted to show everybody this image that I created to promote you on the show, which I really enjoyed. You did see that, eh? Okay, here, let me show the people. Jason Keller is this week's guest host. He'll beat you at Scrabble, then school you at trivia. So that's true, right? You're like a trivia master.
You know what? I mean, I guess you couldn't say that. Honestly, I really think, and it's funny saying this because I know I have the Jeopardy rep and all of that, but I think that a lot of it also very much depends on where we're playing trivia and who's writing it, because it's very much not like Scrabble where it's, a standard thing. It's just something where things can vary widely. And I think those of you who have, say, played in after hours trivias know that you have the gamut from things that are really, I think, appropriate for certain age groups and different kinds of people. So, it comes in all different sorts of flavors.
What's your strongest category, would you say?
Probably mostly geography, I would say.
That's pretty good. I feel like I only played in one of those after-hours trivia, maybe two, something like that.
I know one of them was mine, and I know that I have a reputation for hitting hard and having a little misconception. Actually, it's funny because I haven't done one in a while, but I do have one very groan-worthy question that I totally want to include in an upcoming trivia about things that have recently charted in the Billboard Hot 100. That might kind of spoil what the answer is, but
I see.
But yes, but it would.
Are you going to share the groan-worthy question, or you're holding back?
I cannot. I'm holding back. I'm holding back.
Very good. Well, I do want to say the one that I participated in that you ran was really cool because it was styled as the Jeopardy experience, right? Yeah, and people got to fill out the thing and then participate in a game of Jeopardy, which was fantastic.
And I wanted to also give kind of my usually this is way too hard take on how things would actually go if you were to audition for the show. And so I wanted to have a part where everyone could participate. I wanted to have a part where some people got to get up and play. And it was a labor. It was a labor of love.
Well, it was fantastic because you had a whole bunch of Jeopardy contestants there playing along, or former Jeopardy contestants.
Or hopefuls.
Yes, and hopefuls, for sure.
Yeah, so,
now, I was really excited to have you on the show today because I find you to be not only charming, but entertaining, intelligent, and someone who really gives consideration to their answers when asked questions. So we did an interview, and I wanted to share that with people because you gave this really nice answer, and it's something that pops up in my head all the time. And I don't think this has shown up yet on the NASPA YouTube page. I haven't done a full cut of this interview. It's only about 8 months late. But at some point, that will show up. But we'll go ahead and play that. It's about a minute long, and this will just give everybody this is where I get that impression. Is I really like the way you answer questions and think about your answers and stuff like that. So here we go. Enjoy, everybody. Here's Jason from July of 2018.
A couple of things make me want to keep coming back to this game. One thing is that I've advanced to a level where I feel like I can be a factor in a big championship, and I would certainly love that. I was never much of an athlete in, growing up. I was always the shortest or kind of the least talented. So in a sense, I kind of treat this like a sport. I feel like I could have my shot. I feel like, especially when I came very close to getting a top place and maybe even winning the nationals in 2012, I just said, you know what, this could happen. A lot of my good friends are people who I met through Scrabble and people who I love meeting in wherever, if it's Buffalo, if it's St. Louis, Missouri, if it's New Orleans, if it's Nottingham, UK, just love meeting up with people. It's not just about what's going on during the games, it's about what's going on after. Having drinks at a bar, having yummy food at the Cheesecake Factory. It's nice when it's not just you, it's a group of you who all share this passion and who all just really love to be around each other.
So there we go. I really enjoy that answer. I enjoy the part where you say it would be great to have a shot, and a month after that interview, there you are finishing third at nationals, which is a hell of a finish. So I didn't know if you wanted to expand on that, but the second thing I love about it is, of course, just talking about, the game is one thing, but having all these people around is fantastic as well.
Well, I think I'll save the third for a little bit later when we maybe segue into another segment. But I really do think that, a lot of the good friends who I've made through Scrabble, and I think sometimes it's a shame that I'm not, more proximate to them, because in my job, I do a lot of connecting online and not a lot of connecting in person. And I think that I, find myself missing that element. And as far as it goes, yeah, it's funny I say that. And one thing that was really funny was back in high school, senior awards night. I won a bunch of awards, but the funniest thing was that out of a class of like 460 students that included people who were like state champions or, high level athletes in various sports, the departmental award for physical education went to me. And why? I think it's hilarious. I think it was more just based on the fact that I would always give my best effort in gym class.
Yes.
And I think that also is PTSO. So I also think that probably a lot of students were like, you know what, it would be really funny if Jason won the award, but he also actually like runs when we're supposed to run. And, he like, when we were playing badminton, I'd like dive all over the court to try to retrieve shots. I mean, I definitely try to give it 110% in whatever I'm doing. So
yeah, well, effort is definitely one of the keys to life. That's for sure. Yeah. I won no awards in high school, but I remember in grade 8, so before high school, they gave everybody some patches, and I won a patch for diligence, which is really just a joke, and I think helping at the library, something like that. So
helping at the library.
Well, the school library, but
right, of course.
Yeah, so it wasn't a full, huge experience, but I don't know. Maybe I still have that diligence. But
I also, it's something else that I and not to name names, but sometimes I've heard people who are saying like, I give up on a tournament when it's like round 5 out of 20. And then, even if I'm having a bad tournament, I mean, yes, I'll get grumpy about tiles, but I will always say, you know what, I've got to try my best and I've got to do what I can do to try to kind of turn things around. I always want to, finish as well as I can. And that's something that I think that, even if I am outwardly showing anger, like there's still a part of me that's just saying, you know what, we still gotta play. I know that I know that I'm not the exemplar of sportsmanship, but I do think that people can take a cue from that.
Absolutely. Number one, I want to say, I don't think I've ever seen you walking around angry. That's number one. That sounds like a bit of a stretch. But number two, what I love when you play tournament is that you're doing that social posting. And that's one thing that I think a lot more people could be doing. I always find it interesting to read and to follow along with your progress, but it's also an excellent way to kind of spread the word of what we're doing to family and friends.
And I know that, and it's funny because I do get people, and that's one thing that I'm really grateful for, the Scrabble people who follow, but there are a bunch of, I do crosswords as well. There are a bunch of my crosswording and trivia friends who will chime in every so often. Actually, when I was at Can-Am, one thing that I did after the tournament was that I met June Pak, Jeopardy champion, bridge maven, and crossword awesome person, and we just had we had dinner at a pub that was right by the hotel, and apparently it's also where a lot of people gather for MIT Mystery Hunt, which was going on a month later. But so we just we were just talking about tournaments and about I learned a little bit about bridge from him. He learned a little bit about Scrabble from me. We talked about crosswords since we both do it. Apparently, I also got to kind of send regards to Dave Wiegand because apparently Dave was coming up in junior bridge like a few years before June did. But I really appreciate, and I know that it's interesting that I feel like I have a lot of people rooting for me and a lot of people who at least they're a little bit more aware of it. And I tried to tell June, especially, I'm like, you know what? I see some things about people posting about like games that you're playing on the app. Like you should go to a tournament, and especially I'm like, you'd clean up in like, if they knew who you were and you went to a tournament and you started in the bottom division, like you'd at least clean up for the first
Nice, I love it. Well, speaking of cleaning up at tournaments, I wanted to cover, there was some major news this week, and in theory this is a Scrabble news program.
Yes.
News and variety, maybe. That's probably being generous. But let's go to probably the biggest news item of the week. So that is that Michael Tang made this announcement of the Alchemist Showdown in 2019. So why don't we introduce it? What have you heard about the event?
All that I've heard is that it is going to be a series between Nigel and Ganesh, and I don't know much of the details other than I know it's going to be streamed. I know that there are commentators lined up. Other than that, I saw something big about the dates. I also know that he wants to, for 2020, have 10 of the people who are invited to Alchemist Cup get to play in a candidates tournament to, I guess the winner of this is going to be in the next showdown as well. And then there are going to be 10 candidates who get to play for the right to be in that series with the winner. I think that's a really cool idea. Kind of, if you follow chess,
right?
It's something that it's kind of modeled off of that, and I think it's a really great idea.
For sure. And what I really like, one of the things that he included in the announcement is this thing looks like it's going to have like a production company put the stream together, which is going to take the level. I mean, listen, we're making strides on the live streaming from tournament to tournament to tournament. But I think this is going to be at a whole nother kind of professional level.
And well, one thing that I've also been thinking about, and I know that it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea in the organization, but one thing that, kind of occurs to me is that, like, a lot of us, I realize that we love the game and we'd love to travel around the world, but, it's kind of expensive to get to Malaysia. And it would be kind of nice, like, if there was some consideration, given to, especially, like, I'm aspiring to be at that level, and who knows, I could be on Alchemist Cup US 2020. I even said, hey, you know what? I don't mind being on like Rest of World either. But to some extent, I feel like, once you reach a certain level, like, let's celebrate that you are that skilled, and let's provide some consideration for that. And I know that logistically, and how things are set up, that's a little bit difficult, but I think that we should try to strive for that. Personally, I know I've been saying this and I've been a little lax in this because I've been crazy busy, but the company that I work for has been making inroads to Thailand. And so one thing that I want to try to do is get them to sponsor me to go to King's Cup as a marketing opportunity, because there are a bunch of school kids learning English. So.
Yes, absolutely. No, I love that. So to fill in some of the gaps there, the Alchemist Showdown is going to take place, I believe it's August 24 and 25. I see Michael Tang just joined us on Facebook. I'm sure, and Michael, you can say hi in the comments. I do want to throw out there, there's a poll going down on, I think it's the WESPA page. Who do you think will win, Ganesh or Nigel? Where are you leaning on that one, Jason?
The safe money's with Nigel. You know what? It's interesting. I mean, I don't know. There was a time where the only person who was matching me on the Scrabble app was Ganesh. And I found, I mean, the thing is, it's the app, but I felt like I was having a bit more success against Ganesh than I was against Nigel. I mean, I know that circumstances are circumstances, and of course, anything can happen when you get two people, just playing one-on-one, and things can flip one way or the other. But I definitely would say Nigel's a bit of a favorite there.
Well, and I think in the poll when I voted earlier this morning, it was about 78 to 22 on a percentage basis. But I can't even remember who won between them. They would have played one match at Alchemist Cup. But I think under this post, I'll put a link to that. We actually recently uploaded all of the Alchemist Cup games to the NASPA YouTube page. Yep. So we're going to put out some posts that just detail, anybody from the U.S. team, from the rest of world team, stuff like that. So that is one thing that we're going to do. So I wanted to touch on a couple of other quick highlights here. If everybody who's in the Facebook chat, if you can see us, just give me a thumbs up. For some reason, my screen has gone all red. If you're seeing the same thing, let me know, but continuing to hear us. But let's take a look at some other quick highlights here. Number one, Josh Sokol wins his first Collins tournament. Any particular thoughts on that? Are you excited when a guy like Josh Sokol comes over and starts taking an interest in that dictionary?
Well, I think it would be nice if everyone came over and took an interest in that dictionary. It's nice.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so generally nice. That's what
generally
the
nice.
Answer is there. Obviously, Josh is taking a look at Alchemist Cup 2020, so I'm sure that's kind of where his interest level lies in that. So anyway, congrats to Josh. Let's take a look. What else do we have here on the highlights? This was, I can't remember what tournament this was, but Verna,
I think, of course, Verna, my ex-girlfriend is like yes, my former love, yes. And I know that she had a rough go of it in Atlantic City, so it's nice to see that she got a little bounce back there. I think that was
That's right. I know what tournament she was playing. She was playing in the Super Bowl Sunday tournament against three other people of like rating, and I think she went like 9-1 and just Tom Brady them basically.
Yeah. Let's not go there. She didn't have the tournament director helping her out on half the plays, right?
Okay. Well, there we go. And Michael Fagan up here wins the Ulu Cup. Are you familiar with what the Ulu Cup is? Have you ever heard of that?
That's the Ottawa-Montreal thing.
Look at that. Yeah. You talk about knowing your trivia. That is fantastic. So Michael wins that. But I think Team Ottawa actually took the cup, but Michael had the best.
Yes, I believe that I saw that. Yes.
Okay. Very good. Now, here's what we want to get to. We've got a very special guest tonight who is also breaking news this week. You may have seen a video making the rounds out there where he was giving everybody the lowdown. So let's go ahead. First, I want to show this because I make these graphics and then I never really get to show them other than in that one promo video.
Spoiler alert for everybody, as if you didn't know it before.
That's right. So let's bring him in here. Let's get everybody set up. Here he is, the one, the only, the man who makes it happen every year in the summertime. Art Moore. Art, how are you?
Every year for 2 years in a row, you betcha.
Well, this is going to be year number 3, right? That's exciting.
Yes, this will be.
Mm-hmm.
What's the record? What's the record? Go ahead,
First of all, I changed into my orange shirt, in deference to your guest host.
Yes.
This is the only orange shirt I own. This might even be my wife's shirt. I don't know, but I'm wearing it. So.
Very nice. What's the record for how many nationals someone has organized? Any idea? Dallas did 4 of them, right?
Right, but Mary Rose did a whole bunch.
Mary Rose did a whole bunch of them before. I don't know exactly how many either.
She's like the Joe DiMaggio of national directing. That may never be broken.
Beautiful. Well, now listen, everybody can see. And maybe what I'll do is link under the post to your 1-minute video. But do you want to give us the headlines of what we can expect at this year's Nationals?
Okay, well, following along with the video, the first thing we've got is the expanded early bird. The early bird used to be only open to directors and staff, and it was somewhat a quiet event. We didn't talk about it a whole lot, but if you're a director, you're on staff, you got a chance to play because you were either working and can't play, or you're putting on tournaments and might not necessarily be able to play. So we decided to expand it. So anyone who's coming to the event, anyone who's in the neighborhood and who's a member, they can come, get 4 rounds of Scrabble in the day before and get some fun.
That's good. What I also like about that is, number 1, that's where you can hit up people for the volunteer list, right? They play the early bird, and then you put them right into registration.
Exactly.
Also, I mean, one thing, having played in it once or twice, I think that also there's just such a different vibe. I found that it was just a very collegial vibe, and it's, you can get, and this is one thing that also you can get to meet other people from around the country who you might not normally play. And you can talk and you can interact, and I had a really nice I've had really nice experiences and played some people who I wouldn't otherwise play, so that's always something that I look forward to whenever there's an open tournament.
Well, I think that's really nice. And would it be fair to say, Art, that the vibe that Jason is talking about by opening it up to everyone is just down the drain? What do you think?
It's very different. I played in the early bird in 2008 and 2012 when it was here in Orlando. And what you have is a small number of people in this huge room. You have people wandering in and out from registration. They're looking at the game. Sometimes they're commenting. It's very relaxed and loose. And yes, you do get to play people you wouldn't normally. I remember in 2012, I sat down against Jeff Tevino before he jumped ship. Or maybe he had already jumped ship, but he spanked me pretty bad. But I remember trying to play Deleters, Deleters, and he says no. And I said, okay.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what the pickup for that event is going to be, and I think it's cool that that you guys are opening that up. So what's the next headline for Nationals?
Oh, yeah, we've decided with the help of the advisory board to go to a limited playoff format in Division 1 of both Collins and TWL. After the 30th game, we're going to take the top 2 entrants and we're going to pair them for best of 3.
Yeah, can we like do a time machine and go back to after round 30 of the Nationals?
I would like to go back because last year was an incredible finish. I know for most of us anyway. I'm sorry, Jason. But that's what spurred the idea. Hey, some late round drama is great.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna have some. Jason, you're invited. You are invited to the playoff. You have to get there.
Yeah.
We have a question from the comments, Art, by the way.
Mhm.
How are the divisions going to be structured for the early bird? I knew this was going to stump you. No one knows yet.
You know what? I say, you know what, Art? You should just say it's one big open. Let's be one big happy family.
Just come and play.
Just play, enjoy your opponents, learn some stuff from your opponents, and then you know what? Then you can go into your division in the main event if you're doing.
At most your entry fee is $20. If you're a director staff, you get a discount. If you win your division, you may walk away with $40. But we already don't play for the money. And certainly not for but it's way too soon to know what that's going to be.
So there you go. There's your answer. That was from Jonathan Lind. Now, let's get back to playoffs. So, decided this year to go to the, as we're saying, very limited playoffs after round 30, best of 3 between number 1 and number 2 in Collins and TWL. What made you decide to, help push this through with the help of the advisory board, as you said? Was it just going back to Reno after the last time we did playoffs there? Any thoughts about that? Push your luck?
That is seriously coincidental. If Joel and Nigel had that showdown in New Orleans, then I would have pushed for it from Buffalo. It happened in Buffalo, and it's like, all right, well, let's see if we can work with this. And we know the results from last time in Reno were very, very mixed. A lot of people were very disappointed. I said, well, there should be a way to do this without feeling like everyone's isolated. So I think, starting at around 31, everyone is going to play 31 games. When you're finished your game 31, get out of the playing room, go across the street. You can watch the final game or two if it goes that far. In the awards, in the same room, we're going to have the award ceremony. When the games are done, we'll start handing out money.
Fantastic. Listen, I think that's a really excellent summary. And tell me why you touched on it there. That with the final this past year, that's what drove the decision. So tell me about why that, like how you connect those dots.
Well, it was exciting as anything. And if anyone was watching the stream or goes back and looks, we had a lot of people interested, a lot of people watching. We were featured on YouTube as trending. And, if we can get that again, with more people watching, more people interested, more people saying, I didn't know tournament Scrabble was a thing. This is what we need. So, get people interested at the championship and try to filter it down to the local levels.
And the good thing is, I haven't seen. I remember what it was like in 2015 when the playoffs were kind of non-announced. I don't know if you remember that, Jason, but I haven't heard anyone. I haven't heard anyone with pushback this year. I don't know if you have, or give me what you were going to say.
Me or Art?
You, Jason.
Oh, I was just going to say the funny thing was because I had been to the Worlds where there was a playoff format. It was more like to quote the great Sophia Petrillo. I said, "This is life," and I went back to my meatballs. And I know that a lot of people were controversial. A lot of people thought that there was controversy, and I'm just like, what? I understand that it's change, and I understand that people don't like change, but to me, it was like, okay. Whatever. And I know that also now that we've had this big announcement that this has happened, it's like you should know that this is like where there wasn't so much of an announcement, and I think that that's going to help as well.
Absolutely. So 2 quick things. One, is that cat still on your lap, Art? Can we see the cat?
This is a different cat. Here she is. Yeah.
Fantastic. And number 2, what was that expression? It's life. I'm going back to my meatballs. What was that?
This is life. It's a Golden Girls quote. It's just it appeared in an episode where they were talking about the change and Sophia said, I didn't get it. Nobody told me. I got it. Nobody told me. I figured this is life, and I went back to my meatballs.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, This is the audience we're hoping to skew to, as big Golden Girls fans. So that's great. And listen, there's nothing wrong with Golden Girls. I love the Golden Girls.
You know what? That's a completely different episode of why it's just a wonderful sitcom. But anyway, I know we want to get back to Scrabble, so
for sure.
Yeah.
Now let's. Did we cover all the big headlines? The rest of it, Art, is everything. All the other stuff that you love about Nationals is going to be there again. Are we going to have the musicale? Are we having trivia night? Like all that stuff, or does that stuff come about later?
Yeah, I mean, we plan to have this, the same events unless someone comes up with an idea or something to consider. But no, musicale and trivia are big events, and we look forward to having them again this year.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to troll Josh Sokol and say we should turn the musicale into a karaoke night and charge $5. I think that would go over, but not everybody is down with that. And the musicale is certainly its own thing. It's a wonderful thing. Yep. But yeah, so beautiful. Jason, you've been to a few of these Nationals. What's your favorite Nationals ever? In that clip we were looking at, you talked about the 2012 Nationals, but would that be your favorite ever?
Actually, probably not.
Okay.
You know what? I'd say that actually, I mean, for reasons, I'd say that I kind of liked last year's the best, and not just finish. I just feel like everything. It just all felt kind of nice.
It ran smooth as silk. That's the story.
There was what to do in Buffalo. Yeah, just for whatever reason, it just all felt like it was really smooth, and everything was just so. And I hope that, I mean, one thing, as I mentioned before we went on, one thing that I'm looking forward to in Reno is that hopefully we will get another guest visit from Grammar Girl.
Yes, right.
So
tell people who Grammar Girl is.
So, if you do not remember in Reno, so Grammar Girl, Mignon Fogarty, who's a professor of, I want to say, bioethics at the University of Nevada, she runs a podcast about English grammar. And so this is something that I have used a lot when students ask me random questions about grammar. I look up her page. So when it was announced on day 4 of the tournament that she was... Excuse me, my throat. But
it's all right. So she was there.
That's how excited I am.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a really good day, and I got to meet her, and she was really gracious about just having a discussion. And I mentioned that I'm always talking to her. I'm always looking for tips from her whenever my students are getting random questions. And so it was just really nice. And also, Reno was was nice to walk around as well, and just to experience the city. Maybe the bowling stadium will be open for a couple of frames. Should definitely be a good time.
I want to come back to you, Art. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed Reno the last time, even though I didn't make it further than 2 blocks from whatever complex we were in. But there was a lot of good stuff right around there, and there was so much stuff to do in the complex that it was amazing. Although I did get to drive from Reno to Vegas afterwards. That was really cool, seeing all that kind of countryside and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But Art, I'll ask the same question to you. What do you think your favorite Nationals has been?
Well, I mean, I played in 08 and 2012. 2012 was memorable for a bunch of reasons.
Yes.
I finished second, and I was ecstatic over that. But I think my favorite was 2013 when we were in Vegas. Right. It was my first year on staff, my first year in Vegas, and oh my goodness. I don't know that I slept. I remember when we were packing up our room from the last day, and I'm going through the drawers, and I pull up this thing in the drawer, and I took my wife, and I said, "There's a remote." And I look, there's a TV in this room. I had no idea. In the week and a half we were there was a TV in the room. Mm-hmm. There's so much to do. Vegas is a fabulous city, and I hope we can get there again real soon. Vegas was a blast. And I was telling somebody else today, they had pinball there, and anytime we go to Vegas, we go to this great pinball museum. There's 6,000 casinos. We want to play pinball.
Well, so Just one thing about that. I mean, with the Riviera closed, I'm sure they relocated it, right?
No, I think it's just gone. I don't think there is a Riviera anymore.
Well, yeah, but the pinball was in the Riviera.
Oh, that they were. I see. Yes,
those pinball machines came from another building, and that building's still there. And there's 100 of machines in there. So there's still pinball there.
If you also one thing that was a little bit of a draw is that there's a pinball museum in Asbury Park, New Jersey, right by me, and we used to hold. I used to hold an Asbury Park tournament. I would love to get back there, but Art, if I ever hold the tournament, come on up and hit the Silver Ball Museum, hit the boardwalk, and have a nice little weekend out of it.
Oh, awesome. They're opening up a pinball museum here in Orlando as well. I just stumbled across it last week, so yeah. I love pinball.
Pinball's really having a moment. So, number one, I want to agree with Art. For me, anyway, 2013, that was my first nationals, and absolutely loved it. I had only played in one tournament before that down in the States anyway that I traveled for, and it was also in Vegas. So I had a really good time. And I think what we can say, and we've been talking about Vegas so much, is that when you go to Reno, you can tack on a few days in Vegas like that, right? Mm-hmm. And like the last time we were there in 2015, somebody ran a tournament right afterwards. Dan Horowitz ran a tournament right afterwards, and a bunch of people ended up playing both. So, but it's going to be good times in Reno for sure. And Jason, you said last year was one of your favorites. It ran smooth as silk. That was Art 2.0. This is going to be Art 3.0. We're getting more art for your dollar. And I, for one, cannot wait. So I think that's going to be really cool. Okay. I think what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about a couple of upcoming tournaments, and then we're going to get ready to close the show. I want to thank everybody for joining tonight. For those who eschewed the State of the Union to talk about Scrabble, maybe as a respite, I don't know.
You made a good choice.
Well, you had orange or you had double orange. I like the double orange that you got here. So
very good. Well, speaking of orange, this is more red. Let's talk about a few tournaments that are coming up here really quick. Number one, I'm just going to talk about Kingston really quickly. This is a tournament I'm involved in. We're looking for a few more players. We have a division that is under 1,000 that has a reduced entry fee. We're going to do some stuff specifically for that division. That's some fun. If you know someone who's in this area, Kingston is in between Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, and sort of upstate New York. So if you know someone under 1,000 who enjoys tournaments, you should point them in the direction of this tournament. Then we've got, who wants to talk about Hood River? Maybe Jason, you're the one to talk about it. I don't know that you've been there.
Well, I have not been there.
Okay.
The timing's not right. But so there's a pretty elite field that is gathering in Hood River. It's Collins only.
Yes.
Right. I think the average rating it's already filled up. I think there might be a wait list if you want to try to get on. But the average rating is 1816.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be just a 20-game round robin. A lot, 5 players over 2,000, including, I think it's everyone from the U.S. Alchemist team are the top 5 seeds.
Yeah, and it all takes place in a rented house.
Yeah,
everybody is living and playing.
Everyone is living and playing together, and it's a good time, from what I understand.
So now let's talk about. Sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh, sometimes I want to make one of those get-togethers, but
yeah, I'll bet. I know I'm not getting on that invite list. So let's talk about Saratoga Springs for a second. Art, have you ever been to an Annette Tedesco tournament?
I have not. It's on one of my list of things to do, but I have not made it to answer. And I've heard so much.
Jason, give us a 10-second rundown of what an Annette Tedesco tournament is like.
You can't express it in 10 seconds. No, but it's really, you know what, Art, you have to come for the experience. I know that one thing, July 4th is usually a great one because she usually opens her home and has a barbecue. I know that for various reasons she's not doing it this year, but she wants to arrange something at the hotel that's that's barbecue, and she always gets it. Kind of nostalgic for me because it's like summer camp, and she gets an ice cream truck to come by, and so I hope that we can replicate that at the Marriott this July 4th.
For sure, as she likes to say, the ding-a-ling man is coming. But Annette is someone that I've done some work with and for and stuff like that, and certainly her tournaments are unique, and she's got a big personality. Now, speaking
and a big heart.
And a big heart, there's no question. I've been to, as you guys have, I was looking at your record, Jason, you're up over 3,000 games. Art and I probably combined, I don't know, I didn't look at your cross tables today, Art, because I was more concerned with your directing efforts. But maybe between us, I wonder if we're close to 3,000 if you add us up. All I was going to say is I've been to lots of tournaments, and there are lots of ones where you don't feel particularly hosted necessarily. Like you get good competition and it can be fun and all that stuff. With Annette, you feel like somebody's looking out for you, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and also one thing I can just say, because I've been to the Gideon Putnam, that was where the Saratoga tournaments have been held for a long time. It's a great old hotel in Saratoga State Park. And it feels very much like if you like going to a classic sort of New England style inn, but on a larger scale, it's a great venue for that. And also, if you have the opportunity, and they still have them, get the sweet potato fries at lunch. From the Gideon. They are amazing.
That's a good plug.
Unfortunately, I was just gonna say I'm unfortunately too much going on. Gonna unfortunately have to miss it. We'll miss it.
There we go. Well, we all got stuff to do. Art's got a whole nationals to play. All right, he's still playing a tournament this week.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank everybody for joining. I always love to close the show with this. I want to say happy birthday to some of our Scrabble people out there. Feel free to throw out a one or two word, acknowledgement if these are people you know. Number one, Heather McCall. Any love for Heather McCall?
Yes.
Heather's the best.
Yes, Heather's pretty awesome.
All right, we've got also happy birthday to Lois Patterson, Cecilia Lee.
Yay.
Anyone? Okay. All right. I don't want to make this a barometer, but Cecilia's awesome. Omri, I think I'm saying that right. Rosencrantz. I did an interview with him in Niagara Falls. He seems awesome. A guy that I haven't met by the name of Callum Patrick Kirby Edwards. I think he's from overseas.
Okay,
maybe.
He's from the UK. Yes.
Susan M. Love, and especially I always like to put some emphasis on people who are born today, our very special birthday babies, I like to call them, and that's none other than Matt Graham. How about that? It's Matt Graham's birthday.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Funniest man in Scrabble.
Beautiful. Okay. Thanks very much, guys, for joining me. Thanks to the audience for tuning in. We'll be back next week with a whole different cast of characters, although I think I'll still be here. And but I really appreciate you guys coming on and talking some Scrabble with me.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you soon.
As always.
All right.
As always.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.